Hi, so I'm the Duchenne Connect genetic counselor that is not named Anne. My name is Lauren, and I get to close out our session interpreting Duchenne today. Okay. So as we kind of close out the sessions interpreting Duchenne, we've heard a lot about genetics and about the different things that can influence someone's experience with Duchenne. That can be what type of mutation that is, where is it located, how big is it. We've also heard about modifiers, specifically even modifier genes that can influence a person's individual experience with Duchenne and also influence how we understand Duchenne and Becker as a whole. And then we've started connecting those data pieces in terms of, okay, we are learning about genetics and then that's influencing what we can do for research and clinical trials. And in turn, research actually even then helps us better understand genetics even more, and those influence each other. But genetic knowledge is not just something that interacts with research and trials and vice versa. Genetic information is something that's very personal for families. It influences clinical care, influences what's going on in a family and also in the community. And so I wanted to kind of wrap this up by saying it's not just about these pieces globally that we use as genetic information in research, but also try to make those connections for how all these pieces work together and are influenced by genetic information. So that's why I'm going to wrap this up with what I like to call genetic testing in the real world. And kind of what I mean by that is for us to have this genetic knowledge to better understand Duchenne and Becker, individual people, just like the families we have here today out in the world and individual clinics have to get this genetic testing. And I wanted to focus for a few moments on some really practical, real-world problems that we face just getting the genetic testing done so that we can have this data, so that we can have this great collaboration between understanding genetics and using that to influence data and trials and things like that. So these are some of those practical questions for how do individual families get through genetic testing that I kind of wanted to hopefully target today, answer a little bit today, and some questions that we're at Duchenne Connect uniquely poised to help with. So again, the genetic testing in the real world, these practical realities that we're going to tackle today. It's too short to see. Come on, go in front of me. So quick quiz though, pop quiz for families in the audience. Just take a quick mental inventory for yourself. Are you 100% confident that genetic testing was done? Do you know if the mutation was found? And do you have a copy of that report? Not did someone tell you about it, but do you know in your house where that report is? And if you ever get, find yourself kind of second guessing yourself on any of these questions, come talk to us, because these are things that we can help with. Except for maybe the question about which drawer in a bin under a sofa it might be in your house, but we can help with the other pieces. So think on that and let us know if you have any questions related to this. But one of those first kind of real-world challenges for people obtaining their genetic information is just affording the test. It's very hit or miss still. Some people don't have insurance. Some people have insurance that won't cover the cost of testing or won't cover the test at all. Some people have insurance that, yes, they cover it, but your co-payer deductible is still too big to afford. So with the support of several industry partners, which are BioMarin, Sarepta, and PTC Therapeutics, we have this Decode Duchenne program that's not only helping to provide genetic testing to those with symptoms, but also providing genetic counseling and interpretation for really anyone who needs that additional support. So since the program started, we have more than 300 people who have applied and have been able to access testing through this program. Our criteria are pretty simple. You have to have a suspected or diagnosis of Duchenne or Becker or be symptomatic. You have to have some kind of financial barrier, and you have to be a legal resident of the US or Canada. And I already kind of mentioned some of those reasons people end up with financial barriers to testing related to their insurance. There are some states where Medicaid just says no genetic testing. Florida is one of them. We have a lot of patients coming in from Florida that use our program. But we also know that there are just certain situations, for example, for adults in the room with Duchenne, if you've had a diagnosis for a very long time, you need a diagnosis before genetic testing even existed for Duchenne. And because that diagnosis has existed for such a long time, sometimes insurance just says, well, you've already been treated for that for 20 years, why would we do testing now? So that's one scenario that we frequently see in our program, is people who never got to have genetic testing because it didn't exist when they were getting diagnosed the first time. And now we can help them get it now. So our goal is to just help as many people as possible really get this genetic information so that they can use it for not only better understanding their own experience with Duchenne, to help other family members, and of course to support the data and research that we've heard about so far. So if you are if one of those questions before was, I'm not sure we want genetic testing, and or if you know you need support doing that, if you're a clinic coordinator or team member that knows you have patients that need help, come talk to us. We'd love to get started with you today. If you're paying attention to that last slide, you notice I had a little thing that Decode Duchenne can also help provide repeat testing for those who need it. And the reality is that genetic testing and all tests have some limitations. And so depending on the type of test, what technology was available when certain tests were run, or what mutation was found with technologies, we just know that there are some people who would benefit from retesting, either because the type of technology they had their original testing with never could find their mutation, and now there are new technologies available to find that. For example, we had deletion and duplication tests before we had sequencing tests. So some people had those negative deletion duplication tests but still don't know what the mutation is because they never got offered sequencing. Or for some, with some older test types, there are certain even mutations that, we'd like to repeat that test just to make sure we know the exact size. We've heard, Dr. Nuss and Dr. Flanagan talk about having those breakpoints, knowing exactly where things end and how they work has influence and implications for exactly what we expect someone's experience might be, or how they can enroll in clinical trials that are mutation specific. I wanted to give you just a couple examples of the types of situations that might need more testing. I already gave you one, which is that you didn't have sequencing done yet, and so there may be individuals that still don't know their mutation, even though they've already had some genetic testing. Any deletion duplication test, even if it found a mutation but it didn't check all 79 exons, or an old linkage test, that would be something that we should consider retesting. And then there are certain specific sizes or of deletions and duplications that, depending on the type of test that was done, might consider retesting. And some more specifics about those situations and kind of the best next steps. One, of course, come talk to us, but another, we've just published a kind of a blog about this topic, and I tested it. You can Google PPMD retesting blog, and it'll come up if you wanted to check out more information that way. My take-home point from this that I was hoping to kind of share with everybody is that, genetic testing reports, I hope, are not just something that were handed to you or explained one time in one clinic visit at the point of diagnosis. It's hopefully something that we're revisiting over time, not only to help identify those who might need additional testing, but also start answering some genetic counseling questions that come up over time that maybe people don't think to ask or don't need to ask at the moment that genetic test report is first given to them. So another kind of topic that kind of comes up when we do kind of have this ongoing conversation about genetic test results is, of course, carrier testing. So I describe this here as an obstacle course, not to be negative about the process, but just to be, kind of saying, for those of you that have had frustrations as either a clinic team member or as a woman trying to get testing, there can be some frustrating moments in this process because it's not always clear who should be handling that testing, how do you get it, how do you find the lowest cost option, and especially if you're being seen in clinic and the focus is on a child with Duchenne, some of these questions may go by the wayside. So, although Decode Duchenne is not yet able to provide absolutely free carrier testing, the support that it does provide the genetic counseling team to provide genetic counseling on a broader basis does allow us to help with certain things with carrier testing by answering those questions, those common questions, by helping with logistics. So for clinics and families who are saying, I don't know what this process should be, who should we test first, how should I find the best lab or the best cost, those are things that our services are able to help support. And we do have access to some reduced carrier testing rates, but I find that, and I think a lot of gen counselors or clinic coordinators would agree, sometimes it's just dependent on a person's unique situation, which option is going to be of the lowest cost. We don't want cost to be a barrier for people that are needing carrier testing for themselves. So we can help kind of match people with what might be lowest cost for them. And so that leads me to kind of our next kind of reflection slide. This is more reflective than a pop quiz. But just thinking about, has this come up recently? Do I still have questions about who needs carrier testing in my family? Who should be offered carrier testing? Am I going to be able to afford this? You're thinking through those questions about what needs does your family potentially have regarding carrier testing. Just reflect on that and then let us know, because that's what we're here to help with. And one thing I'd like to point out is sometimes women will tell me that I'm done having kids, I don't need carrier testing, and there are still reasons why it could be informative to have carrier testing even if you finish having kids. So it's another food for thought there. And I know that later on you'll hear more from Pat and Dr. Mendel about our carrier initiatives. Okay, so one of our last, very real logistical challenge in genetic testing is who's going to help me when I have questions? There are lots of us, both the PPMD, your local providers, researchers, and clinicians, your local support groups that are able to kind of fit your question needs. But you can always feel confident that you can start with Duchenne. If you're like, sometimes I get an email that's just like, carrier testing, question mark? Like, that's okay. You can always start with us so that we can get you to where you need to be. Because that is a realistic challenge, is maybe you just realized, I do have questions about carrier testing, but who am I going to ask about that? So you've got a big team to support you, and you can always start to be those first people to help you find who you need. All right. Our friendly reminder, of course, is that your data matters. Your data matters. This is both for boys and men with Duchenne, as well as women who are maybe carriers. This data is important. These are the actions you can take while you're here. Get registered, complete surveys, add family members, and encourage others. And whether you are doing that updating at your right now in your hotel room or directly at our desk while you're talking to us, make sure that you come by and visit us if you've done any updating or registration while you're here, so that we can give you our nice little prize, a very nice coffee cup for you. So I also want to, of course, just lastly thank our Decode Duchenne sponsors that make not only the free testing possible, but all the counseling and support that we can provide regarding genetic testing possible.